1. Guard your inner peace. One of the foundational teachings of Stoicism is that it's not external events that disturb us, but rather our interpretation of them. Epictetus emphasized that people are not upset by things themselves, but by the views they take of them. This idea is revolutionary because it puts the power back in our hands. Imagine someone says something rude or condescending to you. The instinctive reaction might be anger, hurt, or defensiveness. But in that very moment, a Stoic sees a choice, a crossroads between reaction and reason. What you tell yourself about the situation is what shapes your emotions, not the situation itself. When you practice Stoicism, you learn to separate what was said or done from the meaning you assign to it. Disrespectful words are just sounds or symbols. They don't define your worth or disturb your core unless you allow them to. This is where your true strength lies, in guarding your inner peace. Instead of surrendering your serenity to the opinions or behavior of others, you protect it fiercely. You understand that someone else's judgment, insult, or sarcasm is a reflection of them, not you. This insight empowers you to stay composed, thoughtful, and centered. Like a still lake that remains undisturbed by the wind, your inner peace becomes untouchable. In the Stoic tradition, this composure isn't about detachment or coldness. It's about strength, clarity, and self-command. It's about realizing that no one can pull you off balance without your permission. So next time, disrespect knocks. At your door, pause, breathe, and remind yourself, my peace is mine, and I won't give it away so easily. 2. Turn inward. Before you react, when confronted with disrespect, our natural impulse is often to respond defensively, sometimes with anger, sometimes with silence. But Stoicism teaches us a more powerful approach, self-reflection. Rather than placing blame outward, a Stoic turns inward to examine the self. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This means our reactions are not just emotional outbursts, they're reflections of our inner dialogue. Before responding to any insult or slight, a Stoic takes a mental step back and begins asking deeper questions. Is there any truth in this comment? Could my own behavior have played a role in this situation? Am I acting in alignment with my values and principles? This kind of introspection transforms a moment of conflict into a mirror. It offers a chance to understand not just what went wrong, but how we can grow from it. Even when the other person is clearly in the wrong, self-reflection allows us to respond with grace, not ego. Furthermore, reflection teaches us discipline. When we resist the urge to react impulsively, we create space for growth and wisdom. We stop becoming victims of our emotional triggers and start becoming authors of our own behavior. The goal isn't to suppress emotion, but to refine it, to ensure it flows from a place of clarity, not chaos. In a world that rushes to judge and retaliate, Stoicism encourages a pause for personal accountability. And in that pause, we often find the most profound strength, the power to choose who we want to be, regardless of how others behave. 3. Master the pause. In the realm of Stoicism, one of the most valuable skills a person can cultivate is the ability to pause. This seemingly simple act can prevent countless regrets and transform moments of tension into moments of clarity. Seneca, a revered Stoic philosopher, once observed that anger is not only harmful in the moment, but becomes a deeply ingrained habit if left unchecked. To pause is to break that habit before it takes root. When someone disrespects you, your body might tense, your pulse may quicken, and your mind might race with reactions. But in that instant, the Stoic chooses to do something powerful. Nothing. Just pause, breathe. Let the surge of emotion pass without acting on it. This deliberate stillness is not weakness. It is supreme control. Pausing gives you a space between stimulus and response, and within that space lies your freedom. The freedom to decide how to act, not merely react. It's an internal reset button that helps you return to your values before you speak or act. When practiced consistently, this habit reshapes your character, from impulsive to intentional. The Stoics viewed emotional restraint not as suppression, but as refinement. It's not about ignoring your feelings, but about choosing not to be ruled by them. Think of your emotions as waves. The pause is the shoreline, solid, calm, and grounding. No matter how big the wave, it will break harmlessly against a steady shore. So next time disrespect arises, don't rush to retaliate. Instead, anchor yourself in silence for a moment. Observe, breathe, then speak from wisdom, not wrath. This is the Stoic mastery of pause, a pause that protects your peace and preserves your power. 4. Train in empathy. Empathy may not be the first word that comes to mind when thinking of Stoic philosophy, yet it is deeply embedded in its core. Stoicism teaches that we are all part of a greater whole, a shared human experience. When someone disrespects you, Stoicism doesn't ask you to condone their behavior, but it does invite you to understand it. Instead of reacting with resentment, pause and reflect. What might this person be going through? Could their anger or rudeness stem from pain, confusion, or fear? This act of empathetic inquiry doesn't excuse their actions, but it shifts your perspective. It helps you see the human behind the insult. Epictetus emphasized that we should seek the good not in external things but within ourselves, and empathy is one of those inner treasures. When you empathize, you elevate your own state of mind. You no longer play into a cycle of reaction and hurt. You rise above it. Empathy is a tool for emotional sovereignty. It allows you to observe the other person's behavior as a reflection of their inner world, not a verdict on your value. You start recognizing that their disrespect often reveals more about their struggles than your shortcomings. This mindset not only protects your inner calm, but also expands your emotional intelligence. You start approaching people with curiosity instead of judgment, which leads to healthier, more resilient interactions. In practicing empathy, you don't just soften the impact of someone else's disrespect. You grow. You choose wisdom over ego and understanding over retaliation. And in doing so, you live out one of the deepest virtues of Stoicism, compassion rooted in clarity. 5. Anchor. Yourself in virtue for the Stoics. Virtue is not just a guideline, it is the foundation of a meaningful life. Courage, justice, wisdom, and temperance are the 4 cardinal virtues that define how a Stoic aims to live. When faced with disrespect, Stoicism doesn't tell you to remain silent or passive. It tells you to respond in a way that reflects your highest values. Seneca famously said that virtue is nothing else than right reason. This means that a virtuous response isn't just about being morally upright. It's about being deeply rational. Rather than letting emotions lead, you let principle guide you. When someone insults or belittles you, your first instinct might be to retaliate or shut down. But if you ask yourself, what would courage do? What would wisdom say? You start to respond with integrity. You shift the focus from reaction to intention, from injury to growth. Virtue gives you a compass when emotions threaten to pull you off course. If someone acts unjustly, your commitment to justice ensures you don't stoop to their level. If their words are meant to provoke, your temperance keeps you from overreacting. If the situation is complex, your wisdom helps you see the bigger picture. This is the Stoics' way, not to be indifferent to disrespect, but to meet it with moral clarity. You don't mirror the behavior of others. You stand as a reminder that dignity isn't about domination. It's about discipline. Anchoring yourself in virtue during moments of tension doesn't just protect your reputation, it shapes your character. In a world that rewards loud reactions and ego-driven wins, the Stoic walks a quieter, more resilient path, defined not by how others act, but by how steadfastly you stay true to who you are. 6. Embrace what you can't control. One of the most profound teachings in Stoic philosophy is the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us and some things are not. This principle, championed by Epictetus, is the key to preserving inner peace in the face of life's many challenges, including disrespect. When someone disrespects you, your first reaction might be to fix the situation, to change their opinion, or to make them see your worth. But Stoicism invites you to take a step back and ask, is this within my control? The answer is usually no. You cannot force others to behave respectfully. You cannot change their upbringing, their emotional baggage, or their worldview in a single moment. What you can control is your mindset, your response, and your values. You can choose not to internalize the insult. You can choose not to be defined by someone else's ignorance or anger. And in making that choice, you reclaim your power. Epictetus said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." Instead of grieving over lost respect from others, the Stoic rejoices in the self-respect they preserve by acting with dignity. Acceptance in Stoicism is not passive resignation. It's a courageous acknowledgement of reality. It allows you to stop wasting energy on battles that cannot be won and instead redirect that energy inward, toward developing resilience, wisdom, and strength. So when you face disrespect, remind yourself, I cannot control how others act, but I can absolutely control how I respond. That is where true freedom lies, not in changing the world, but in mastering your inner one. 7. Apply humor as a shield. Stoicism is often associated with seriousness and emotional control, but one of its lesser-known strengths lies in its appreciation for humor. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, reminded us that true mastery of the self includes knowing what not to take seriously. When facing disrespect, humor can serve as a shield, diffusing tension, reclaiming composure, and protecting your inner peace. Think of humor as a pressure valve. When someone says something offensive or insulting, your emotions might surge. But with a dash of wit, you can redirect the energy of the moment into lightness instead of conflict. A well-placed quip or a calm, ironic observation can disarm the aggressor, all while showing that their words haven't shaken your core. Of course, this isn't about sarcasm or mockery. That kind of humor can escalate a situation rather than ease it. Stoic humor is subtle, graceful, and grounded in confidence. It doesn't seek to wound, but to lift. It sends a message. I am not threatened by your words. I choose levity over hostility. In applying humor, you're not avoiding the situation. You're managing it with mastery. You're signaling that your peace of mind is more valuable than a quick rebuttal. Even a simple smile, a gentle shrug, or a witty response can say more than any argument ever could. In a world where everyone rushes to respond and retaliate, the ability to inject lightness is a rare and powerful Stoic skill. So next time someone throws shade, consider tossing back a little sunshine. Not only does it protect your dignity, it also uplifts the moment, and maybe even the person who tried to pull you down. 8. Set boundaries with calm strength. One of the most misunderstood ideas about Stoicism is that it teaches passive endurance. In reality, Stoicism is about standing firm, like a rock in a storm, not to resist for the sake of resistance, but to remain true to one's principles. This is especially vital when dealing with disrespect. Setting boundaries is not unstoic. In fact, it's an act of justice, the Stoic virtue that demands we give to ourselves and to others what is right. When someone crosses the line, the Stoic does not retaliate with anger nor retreat into silence. Instead, they speak clearly and firmly. This is not acceptable. This is where I stand. Calmly establishing boundaries protects your dignity without compromising your inner tranquility. It allows you to assert your values without being dragged into emotional chaos. This calm strength is what makes Stoicism powerful. It doesn't shout, but it never wavers. You don't have to tolerate continuous disrespect to be stoic. The key is in how you respond. When you express your limits without aggression or fear, you become the steady presence in the room, the one who doesn't need to dominate because your integrity speaks for itself. Boundaries also help others understand how to relate to you. When clearly defined, they teach people that you respect yourself and that you expect the same in return. And when those boundaries are crossed, the Stoic doesn't explode. They calmly realign the situation or walk away with grace. To be firm without being harsh, to be assertive without being combative, that is the Stoic way of setting boundaries. It's not about controlling others. It's about honoring your values and protecting the space where your peace can thrive. 9. Forgive to reclaim. Your freedom to the untrained mind, forgiveness might seem like surrender or weakness. But to the Stoic, forgiveness is an act of power, one that liberates the soul. It is not a favor done for the offender, but a gift offered to oneself. Disrespect can wound. It can leave emotional scars that persist long after the words have faded. But holding on to that pain only deepens the injury. Anger and resentment act like chains, keeping us tethered to those who wronged us. The Stoic, recognizing this, makes a bold choice to release those chains. Forgiveness is not forgetting, nor is it approval. It is clarity. It's the conscious decision to no longer allow someone else's actions to control your inner state. You acknowledge the harm, but choose not to carry it. This decision is not always easy, but it is transformative. By forgiving, you reclaim your emotional autonomy. You take back the energy that would otherwise be spent reliving pain and reinvest it into peace, growth, and virtue. Epictetus advised us to focus on what we can control, and we cannot control how others treat us. We can only control our response. Forgiveness is that response elevated. It's choosing wisdom over ego, clarity over chaos. And make no mistake, this is not a naive optimism. It's strategic resilience. It means refusing to let someone else's poor behavior become a permanent guest in your mental space. Forgiveness says, you no longer have power here. When you forgive, you move forward with your dignity intact. You become lighter, freer, and more focused on what matters, living in alignment with your values. In that sense, forgiveness isn't the end of the conflict. It's the beginning of your liberation. 10. Expand. Your perspective is one of the Stoics' most powerful tools. It allows us to rise above the moment, to see beyond the sting of disrespect, and to realign ourselves with what truly matters. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Our life is what our thoughts make it." If you train your mind to see disrespect not as a personal attack but as a fleeting event, you free yourself from its grip. Disrespect can feel overwhelming in the moment. It can seem like a threat to your identity or a challenge to your dignity. But the Stoic steps back. They ask, will this matter in a day, a week, a year? Often the answer is no. That realization alone can diffuse much of the emotional tension. Perspective transforms insult into insignificance. It reframes the other person's behavior as a reflection of them, not of you. Perhaps they were having a bad day. Perhaps they are lost in their own pain. When you see that, you shift from judgment to understanding, from ego to equanimity. But perspective also reconnects you with your priorities. Instead of stewing in offense, you redirect your energy toward your goals, your values, your purpose. You remember that your worth isn't diminished by anyone's inability to see it. This shift doesn't mean denial, it means elevation. You elevate your viewpoint above the noise where clarity lives. You realize that many of life's slights are just passing clouds, and you are the sky. So the next time someone disrespects you, zoom out. Envision your larger mission. Ask yourself what truly deserves your attention and your energy. Then walk forward, grounded and undisturbed. Perspective doesn't change what happened. It changes how you carry it. And that can change everything.